Was.
Yeah.
It's probably Albany in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Nice of him to join us.
Okay.
There you go.
Here we go.
Okay, all right, the light is on, and we are going to get started, and I'll call the meeting to order. And good evening, everyone, and would you like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Allison, could we get a roll call, please?
Olson.
Here.
Sykes.
Yes.
Johnson. Here. Kellam.
Here.
Kopsinski.
Here.
Coburn. Canopa.
Here. And I'm not sure Bill was going to be here unless he's coming late, so didn't, last we heard that he was coming.
By definition, he's now late.
Yeah. Okay, council, first on the agenda is a communication item, and this is accepting Mike Martin's resignation from the Public Safety Commission.
Move that we accept the resignation and send a thank you letter.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Next is business from the public. Is there anyone here that wanted to bring an item forward this evening to the council? Lisa?
Good evening. Lisa Grotto, Albany Downtown Association. I just wanted to bring up a couple things that are happening in our downtown. Starting tomorrow, we have an event called Crazy Days. It's the oldest event in downtown. It started out as Bargain Days in 1896 and then turned into Crazy Days after World War II. So it's been around for a long time. So that is this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and a lot of merchants will have things out on the sidewalks as well as in parking spaces. So it should be interesting with that, as well as having river rhythms tomorrow night, so that should make it very busy downtown.
Yes.
Also wanted to note the carousel is now open on Mondays, and they're finding that to be an even busier day than Sunday, which has been a very busy day for them. So that's also exciting to have that going on downtown. And then our movies at Monteith start on July 20th. It is on 4 Friday nights. And so we'll be playing Wonder. And then on the 27th, Jurassic Park, the original, at the 25th anniversary. August 3rd is Wonder Woman, which was a popular vote on Facebook. And then the final one is on August 10th, and that will be Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. That's the new one. And we have some nonprofit community partners putting together a kid area that night. So lots of things to do. So
great.
just wanted to make sure you know that there's lots going on downtown. And Summer Sounds has been well attended on Monday night,
Yes,
and that will
that's great.
continue as well.
Yeah, it was a great concert.
Yep,
Yeah.
so a lot of great things going on. So I want to
Yes.
make sure I shared that with everyone.
Thank you, Lisa. Do you know, on Mondays, then, how late is the carousel staying open?
I believe they're running regular hours until, I think it's 5 o'clock, but I'd have to check on that.
And so what about on Thursday? Is it at 5 o'clock?
I think
So
they
they're-
also closed at 5 o'clock on Thursday this last week. I don't know.
Okay.
if they-
I had people at the concert, last week asking if it was open, kind of just wanting, the kids were like wanting to go with their grandkids, so. Yeah, but they probably would still be busy if they stayed open during the concert or
I bet they would be.
just right before, but.
And don't forget, we've always got Farmers Market, and then Festival Latino is coming up later this month.
Yeah, okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else from business from the public? All right, okay. Council, so we have a second reading of ordinance. This is the one for amending the Albany Development Code text and adopting findings. This is over accessory dwelling units. And Sean, would you like to read the second reading?
Okay. An ordinance amending ordinance number 4441, which adopted the City of Albany Development Code by amending the Albany Development Code text and adopted in findings.
Move for the adoption of the ordinance.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Yeah, Bill and Dick?
I wasn't at the last meeting, but watched it on TV. And I'm not in favor of this. In fact, as I recall, at the joint city council planning commission meeting, Sharon, don't let me put words in your mouth, but I believe what you said was that this was a solution to a problem they had in Portland. And I just don't see that we have the problem. I don't like the idea of it. I've talked to a few people and explained that you could have a two-story dwelling, people looking over at you, that it just, I don't think it fits, I don't think it's needed, I think it's unnecessary. Maybe someday down the road, but we've got buildable land, there's a lot of construction going on in terms of subdivisions and apartments, and we're looking at all levels of housing, from low income to some of the things that concerts are proposing. I'm just saying, not at this time.
Dick?
Yeah, I have to agree with what Bill had to say, and I did vote no on the second reading, hoping that the news folks would pick up on just exactly what this is proposing and alerting the public to what it proposes, but that didn't really happen. So, in addition to what Bill objects to, my understanding of this is that a developer could buy a house and decide to turn into a duplex, and go ahead and do it. And well, he'd have to get permission from the planning staff, of course, but my observation of the planning staff is that anything that fits within the guidelines is automatically agreed to. Whether neighbors like it or not, I don't think the neighbors have any chance to comment on a situation like this. So, and connected with that, I believe that our present ordinance, if a homeowner wants to have a auxiliary unit in his backyard, he applies to, or she applies to the city planning department, and they decide whether it's appropriate or not. But in this case, apparently the owner of the building doesn't have to be a homeowner or whatsoever. So I'm going to vote no, and I hope I get somebody else on the council to vote no on this.
So yeah, we haven't, as a council, had much discussion on this. As you know, we heard, the reports on it. So my big concern is, I'm for density, to be able to save on farm and forest land and have, cities be able to urbanize and be able to build great livable communities. My concern with this, we do already have accessory dwelling units, but it's a 750 square feet. I'm fine with the 750 square feet, but not the 900 square feet. So 900 square feet, it is a two-bedroom. 750 would be a one-bedroom. So you could have two adults, so you could have two vehicles. 900, if you got two-bedroom, you could have actually four adults in there, and that would be that could be up to four vehicles. So, but also a part of the changes would be for the accessory dwelling unit would not have to have any off-street parking. So if you have a two-bedroom and four drivers, then you're putting four cars on that street. And then the next door house could be doing the same thing. So we can still keep the existing language of the 750 square feet, and by requiring one off-street parking space before, in order to be able to add an accessory dwelling unit, I think that would be a better fit. What this is doing, in my view, would be the state is putting this on all communities, which is not fair because it's really dealing with the housing crisis, mostly in the Portland area. But what it's taking single-family residential neighborhoods that have been established and turning them into multifamily. And if the state wanted to change the rules towards this, then why not do it for new subdivisions on down the road? But it's not fair for existing neighborhoods to be turned into a multifamily neighborhood. So it could still be, if it was an attached dwelling, then it would just look like a house is being enlarged. But this is allowing for a separate dwelling on that tax lot. So it's really turning it into a two dwellings per lot. But I also think we're going to be having some parking wars on our residential streets when you're, adding accessory dwelling units that could have up to 4 additional drivers by adding a different, by adding 2 bedrooms on it. It's best to stay with the existing 750 square feet, and then you've got just a one-bedroom, most likely, and you've got less of an impact. I feel that's the route we should go with the city, so we can just kind of prevent some conflicts down the road within our residential neighborhoods. Yeah, Rich?
A couple of things. It's my understanding that if you want to do this, you still have to meet setbacks. So putting 2 dwellings on one lot, it has to be a pretty good sized lot. You can't do it on a 10,000 square foot lot. Very handy, unless they have done some very judicious work, because the setbacks would keep you from doing it. The other thing, I guess is a question for staff. How much choice do we have? I mean, we have a choice whether or not how you set it on there, and what setbacks might be from the front, and how many square feet, but state law. I mean, how big of a gun do we have to our head?
So to your question, it is a state law that took effect on July 1st of this year, that all jurisdictions of our size have to allow, doesn't mean that everybody gets to build one, but it's if there's space and it meets the standards, that wherever a single-family detached house is permitted in the city, in those zones, that's where we need to allow accessory dwelling units to be constructed. So our current code doesn't allow certain types of accessory dwelling units in all zones where we allow single-family homes. And so that's the biggest, I think that's the biggest place where our current code doesn't comply with the state law.
So it is in fact some of the they can be disconnected or that kind of thing is part of the state law?
So the state law defines an accessory dwelling unit as something that's either within an existing primary residence,
right, like
or
ours would be
attached,
now.
like an addition, or it could be detached. Detached meaning its own separate building only with a residence in it, or detached in the terms of you might have a separate shop or garage with a living unit above it. So it's either detached, attached, or interior to the primary residence. And so with that being the definition, that's what we have to allow in all zones that allow single-family residences.
Right.
But we don't have to increase it to the 900 square feet.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so that proposed change, I think most of you were through those discussions, and there was discussion along the way, and it was something that came out of the Planning Commission. It was brought forth to the City Council work session. There was discussion, and ultimately that proposal carried forward to the City Council because that's what the Planning Commission recommended. And it's, of course, up to the council to decide whether or not to keep that kind of a standard.
And the same with the parking, right?
Yeah, and Mayor, if I may clarify, the proposal relative to parking is that the current code requires, if you have a house with an accessory dwelling unit, that you have to have 3 parking spaces for all of the units. The proposal is that you still have to have 3 spaces, but if you owned a property and that property had on-street parking of at least 25 feet abutting the property, then you could count that space, that availability of the street towards one of those 3 requirements, 3 parking spaces. So not every property that could have an ADU would be able to have on-street parking that they could count towards that. It would be some, but not all.
But we could still have it be where you still have to have the 3 off-street and then still have the 25 feet also.
So you could keep the standard
Because
as it
25
is.
feet is what, two parking spaces?
It's about one space.
One space.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 25-foot length would accommodate one
Right.
parallel parked car.
And one thing that I'm always hearing about is kind of when it comes to the parking issues in neighborhoods is when it comes to garbage day. And everybody puts out the 3 cans, and then somebody's upset because somebody has parked in front of their garbage cans and they didn't get picked up. And that's what I'm worrying about. By having more vehicles on a street, by allowing, the ADUs could end up causing more conflicts, so. Yeah, Ray?
I think at this point, it's making a mountain out of a molehill, Sharon. I don't perceive a huge number of people clamoring to have ADUs. Maybe 2 or 3 that I'm aware of, and in the near future, I can't think of many at all. I have no problems in voting for this the way we've written it, based on our discussions at the work sessions.
Yeah, Mike?
I'm going to tag off Ray here. We've had many meetings with this gentleman explaining all of this and what was going on, which there was ample opportunity, in my opinion, to bring up the concerns, and I don't understand why we're doing it on the night now. We're going to discuss this after we had numerous meetings over all of these topics, and now we're hashing it over again. I don't understand. So
Well,
I'm going to vote for it.
These same concerns were brought up in the joint meetings that we had.
Then why,
So-
okay, then if they were brought up, nothing was done about it, and now we're on voting.
Because we weren't all voting on it. So it was,
Okay.
there's many planning commission members along with all of us, a lot of us had concerns with it, and that's why it was, this is our chance to be able to discuss it. So, Bill?
Mike, I think Sharon's right. We did discuss all these issues, but it's never official or final or accepted by the city until the council votes on it. So that's where we're at tonight. I think some of us are just explaining why we're not going to vote for it. I'm fine with the minimum state requirements, and like Rich says, we probably don't have much option on that. I don't see any reason to go beyond what the minimum requirements are. But some of the things that the mayor also brought up gets into unintended consequences. And those are the things that bother me on down the line. Some of the council members remember the tavern or bar that was put in over at 9th and Elm behind Grice's chiropractic office. And it led to complaints from some neighbors and a lot of discussion about this. And finally Dick said, how did this happen? And staff reminded us, well, back on such and such, you had this such and such document that we all discussed and we all agreed on and we voted in favor of it. And that led to some zoning changes that allowed that. When, it's an unintended consequence. I don't think that was the intent when we looked at that information. I don't know if I was even on council when that particular issue came up. But I think that this is going to lead to more unintended consequences, particularly when your constituents comes knocking on your door and said, how can the city allow this in my backyard? I got some 2-story structure looking down on me, and you backtrack to tonight.
It's not, going back to what Rich said, it's not, we're just passing on what the state is mandating us to do, according to
Well, there
the
are
staff.
a few differences, but
There's
by and
There's
large.
some
changes.
changes. Yeah.
Then make the changes.
Well, and that's, the council would have to amend the ordinance to go back to the 750 square feet and to have one on-street parking space. So it would take an amendment to this ordinance. Dick?
Well, I think we're telling the state thanks, but no thanks. And if it brought it up to a statewide discussion, it may alert other cities as to what the state is foisting off on us. I think it would be a good thing. And my recollection is that I heard that this particular state ruling was brought up in the very tail end of the session. I don't know, it was in the dark of the night. I don't think there was any discussion of it, but it was brought up as, oh, it's going to help the poor. Oh, my God, and everybody votes for it. Well, I say, well, to heck with it. Well, I say, to heck with it. I hope you vote no, somebody.
Bessie, then Rich.
Councilor Wilson said that you don't even have to be the owner of the property. The owner doesn't have to live there or whatever. So, can you refresh my memory on, I mean, I'm trying to find it here, but I can't at the time. It doesn't matter that they're in their front house or back house or whatever. Do they have to be in residence?
The current code essentially defines an accessory dwelling unit as, to be an accessory dwelling unit, the owner of the property has to live in either the ADU or the primary residence. The code, the proposed code, takes away that requirement. And there were some reasons articulated as to why that was done. If you'd like, I can kind of run through a few of those, but.
Well, that's good. I think I'm remembering now why the reasons were, and that was kind of give a little bit more freedom to the property owner in case somebody passes away.
It was something that's difficult to enforce. That's, I think, a big reason why the change is proposed. And if you did, even if you did know that there was a property owner that wasn't living in one of those, then it's also, difficult to go to that person and actually implement the code,
Right.
even if you did know.
Exactly.
I think those are, really that's kind of boils down to that. Plus, there's arguably it's inconsistent with state law because state law says that you can regulate accessory dwelling units based on siting and design, reasonable siting and design standards. And one might argue that who owns the building has nothing to do with site or design. Now, that's just one potential argument. I don't know whether that holds any water or not, but that's the argument.
Great, thank you.
I think Lynn County and Benton County both added that into their ordinance, that it had to be owner occupied.
I think that could be
Yeah.
true.
Mm-hmm. Rich?
If it's the will of the council that we should pass this thing with 750 square feet instead of 900, I don't have any heartburn with that. I have a little heartburn with the parking requirement because we allow that same thing all over down here. I mean, if you have a place downtown, you don't have to have any parking spots. And, it's kind of a double-edged sword, at which point we need to have a standard. And if I buy a building here and put a loft in it and have 7 places up, or fix one of the old buildings and there are 20 apartments in it, there's no requirement for parking. So I don't think we ought to have requirement for parking here any more than what this has been. To be able to use the place in front of your house, I don't see that as a problem.
First come, first served.
Unless there's not enough parking and it's 4 cars, extra cars, then what would a neighborhood do?
Well, if you have a house and the people have 9 children and they all have cars, it doesn't make any difference where it is, you're not going to have good parking. I mean, parking is an issue all the time, what if? I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable, is what I'm saying.
Well, I don't think you live in a neighborhood, Rich, and I do, and I've observed heated arguments about parking. So I think a concern about parking is a logical concern.
First Avenue, Second Avenue, people live upstairs, no parking required. I mean,
But they know when they move into a downtown area, that's the way parking is. And, but these are established neighborhoods that, most people realize that their frontage is for their guest parking or their own vehicles too, but.
Well, that's true.
And then when you gotta add garbage cans out there and everyone, I just hear the complaints a lot throughout the community.
It's also true that there is no way for us to tell someone how many children they can have or how many guests they can have, unless they're charging people. I mean, people come and visit, we don't have the visiting police out there. I mean, I guess I've.
Children come and go, visitors come and go, that's a transient problem. But if you have too many residences and not enough parking, it's a constant problem. And we have to avoid it if possible.
Betsy?
I think the 900, up to the 900 square feet is good, because if you have the property large enough for it, and I think this Mrs. Howard that had written this letter and had come, is that you? Okay, I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. That's for one instance, you know, the property's big enough, so they can go ahead to 900. But if it's small enough, it's too small, then, you know, they're not gonna go up that high because it wouldn't match the setbacks. So I think the 900 is, up to 900 is fine.
Call for the question.
So, do you have to second it?
You want a second for call for the question and vote on call for the question? Okay, we're voting on whether we should end discussion by call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay,
I don't
now,
have more comments.
what was that, Dick?
I say I don't have any more comments on this.
Okay. With that, we have the ordinance, we have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? Well, we call for the question, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, could we get a roll call, please?
Olson,
No?
Sykes,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Kellum,
Yes.
Kopsinski,
Yes.
Coburn.
No.
Okay, that's a 4-2. So, so council, I do want to, out of, respect, consideration, I really feel that this is not the right path that we should be going on as a city with neighborhoods. I, for one thing, do not think enough people in neighborhoods know about these accessory dwelling units, because I have been talking to people about it. They had no idea, because a lot of times people don't stay in tune with what our city business is. And I have not heard one positive thing about allowing accessory dwelling units. So,
I have.
Yeah.
well, but, and actually, Ms.
Yeah,
Howard, I'd like.
That's what, a 10,000 or 20, 30,000 foot lot that you've got?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
70.
so, which
50,
I'd like to
70,
talk to after the meeting
70,000.
about it. I think you have another route to go that'd be more cost-effective for you, that would fit, and you would not be bound to any limit of square footage, so we can talk on that. But technically, council, I can veto an ordinance if it, and it would have to have 5 votes for approval. So I believe I have 3 days to file that, and I will be considering that on, I've never done that in 10 years, but
So
I.
can can your veto be overturned?
6-5 votes.
Yeah, it takes 5 votes. Yeah. I've never had to use it.
87%? Not 60, not two-thirds?
When it, so
The
it's
charter
only for
says
ordinances.
It's in the charter, it says 5 votes.
But it's only for ordinances, it's not resolutions, anything else like that. So, so I will be looking at that if that's a route to go. I just really feel when it comes to, have always wanted to protect neighborhoods and keep our neighborhoods livable, and I just kind of feel this is not a route that we should be going down, so, on that.
And I beg to differ. I'll just say that right now.
And I know,
that
and I respect everyone's opinion, so,
No, you don't. No, you don't.
but we will, I will just, I'll be mulling that over, so. Okay, next is, there's an ordinance on page 19. And would you have like a second reading, Sean?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 4441, which adopted the City of Albany Development Code by amending the Albany Development Code text and adopting findings.
Bill?
Question for staff. So this has to do with expedited reviews. Does this ordinance have anything to do with the one we were just discussing? No. Jeff's saying no. Okay, thank you. I didn't think so, but as you read through this, sometimes your eyeballs get a little fuzzy.
Well, let me ask a question.
Yeah, Dick?
Doesn't this ordinance say that in the case of the accessory dwelling units, that the staff is going to make the decision as to whether to allow it or not, and the planning commission has nothing to say about it?
I think in your question, there are really two questions. So the ordinance that was just mentioned has to do with expedited review of land divisions and also of certain multifamily developments. And the changes in the development code are really just referencing certain state laws. It doesn't change any standards or anything in our development code, so they're really just references to those state laws. So it doesn't have anything to do with the accessory dwelling units. But to answer your question about accessory dwelling units and who makes decisions on them, those are today made by staff. So staff reviews accessory dwelling units as well as outbuildings and shops. And if they're, say for example, a shop that's bigger than 750 square feet of any size, that would have to go through a site plan review process. But an ADU, it's just if they meet the standards of the code, then it's approved. It doesn't go to the planning commission.
Very true. But if the neighbors don't like it, the neighbors happen to hear about it and they don't like it, they can appeal it to the planning commission?
There's not a public notice for accessory dwelling units. Similar to, say, a home business. That's another kind of an example of something that would occur in a residential area that doesn't require public notice.
But with our present code, a neighbor can appeal it to the planning commission?
No, sir. They're not able to. There's no opportunity. There's not a land use decision that they could appeal.
Really? I guess I misheard you when we were having our discussion on this.
I'm sorry if I misspoke earlier, but that's the current.
So if my neighbor decides to build something in his backyard that meets your standards, and I object to it, I have absolutely nothing to say about it.
It fits the.
Yeah, it beats the.
Can I appeal it to Lubas?
No,
No, okay.
the reason is simply, maybe it's not simple, but if it's not a land use decision, if they're meeting just the standards of the code, say setback and height requirements, and it's something that's permitted in that zone, like an outbuilding or an accessory dwelling unit, then those things, if staff's doing our job, then they're meeting the standards of the code. And we go through that review at a staff level to make sure that the standards are met. And if a person can meet the development standards, that's what the community and the council at some point in time had agreed to as, that's good, that's okay, and you can build to those standards.
Well, I guess that's the add-on to the Tomcat Tavern controversy we had several years ago. Okay. I think that's unfortunate. I think we need to change that.
So where are we? Need to move to approve ordinance
Yeah, the
4441?
Yep.
How would you like us to
Motion.
vote on that, Mayor?
So you can vote whichever way you'd like.
Well, I just want to make sure that I'm doing,
So
What you-
whichever way you'd like, yeah.
okay.
So,
I'm just
okay.
making
Was that-
sure that that's okay.
Was there was that a motion, Ray?
Yes.
Okay, was there a second?
Second.
Okay, all right. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Yeah, I think I'll vote no. So I guess I don't understand what all this is.
Okay, all right, motion carried. Okay, thank you, Bob. Next this is a carryover one. This was one that did not get put on the council meeting even before. So this is repealing an ordinance, and the ordinance is on page 28. And this would be for the second reading.
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 5359 that authorized creation of budget activities within street fund for revenues and expenditures of monies for the non-oversized portion of future arterial and collector roadways, and provided for a process to finance those street improvement assurance fees and declaring an emergency.
Move to approve. Second?
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, next, that takes care of ordinances. Next is adoption of resolution. This is authorizing the chief of police to sign ongoing police vehicle lease contracts. Do you have any questions of the chief? He's in the back of the room.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, next is adoption of consent calendar. There's only one item on there, so there's really, unless you want to discuss that, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
Is there a second?
Yep.
Yep, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, and here's another, this one's a carryover, award of contract to Willamette Valley Rehabilitation Center for custodial services beginning in July 2018. And, okay, Ed.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Just a couple things on this item. At your seat were 2 pages. One is labeled Exhibit A, Cost Proposal, and this was in your original packets a couple of meetings ago, but we excluded it accidentally from your packet for this meeting, so I wanted to make sure that you still had it in front of you. Exhibit A just simply outlines the costs for each facility under this contract and then shows how that totals to the first-year contract amount. And the second page that I provided you provides all of you information that I previously provided Councilor Johnson at her request. Once I was sure I was answering her questions correctly, then I wanted to provide you as well with the same information. So I hope that it's of value to you this evening. As the memo or the council memo indicates, we're seeking your approval of a resolution that would award a contract to Willamette Valley Rehab Center, a state-certified qualified rehabilitation facility, or QRF as we call it. The total contract for the first year would be $270,914.17. And the contract would be for a period of 5 years, 2018 to 2021. And there are inflationary rates in the contract for each of the subsequent years, the 4 years, up to 3%, but driven by the CPI, the Consumer Product Index, or Price Index. As I explained in the memo, those numbers are all different from the original proposal that came to you a couple of months ago. Some of the questions that you all had at the last meeting when this was discussed and voted on had to do with the state QRF program. And I think there were questions about whether or not the city really had to go this route and what the kind of the nuances, I guess, if you will, of the state program, the mandate, as some of you called it. And we've asked Darvin Pierce, who is the QRF program coordinator, to be present tonight. And if you have questions about the QRF program and what is required and whether or not the city is interpreting things correctly, Darvin is here and can answer those questions for you. Other than that, we'll be looking for a vote on the resolution, which is found on page 39.
You got questions? Yeah, Ray?
Yeah, Ed, can you explain, you handed out the handout with your email
Yes.
for July 10th. It shows
Yes.
the total, on the last 2 lines, shows the total of $256,000, and then it shows for the same year, fiscal year, $270,000.
Oh, it looks like I messed up, doesn't it? The last line should be for this upcoming fiscal year, which is, well, the one we're in now, which is 18-19.
So it should be 18-19.
It should be, and I apologize. Chalk it up to getting mixed up on which fiscal year I'm working on.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, Bill?
Ed, did you solicit bids from anybody besides the
There are 2 other QRFs that are in our area, and we asked both of them to respond to the proposal. Those other two QRFs, Cornerstone, which is headquartered in Corvallis, and the other one is, I'm not sure where they are, Darvin can probably fill in the blanks for me. It's Carton Services, yeah, Carton Services, right. Both declined to submit a proposal. Generally, they'll refuse to submit a proposal if they just don't feel like they've got the capacity to take on that additional business or a contract that large. And at least in the case of Cornerstone, I know that was true. So we did. We solicited from the 3 eligible QRFs in the area.
Okay. You have more questions? Yeah, Bill?
Not for Ed, but just one comment. As I indicated, I was not here at the last meeting, but I did watch it on TV and saw it was a 3-2 vote. I was at home voting no, you just couldn't see me. But then I sat down with our city manager and had a discussion, and part of it was some comments that Rich was saying about an unfunded mandate, and I think Mike might have made comments on that too.
It's not new, though.
Pardon me?
It's not new. The requirement is not new.
Right.
Unfunded mandate is only for new items.
But in the discussion that Peter and I had, indicated we had a couple of options. The state does require this. The only other option that I saw was that the city self-performs it with city employees.
That is the only other option that we have.
And I think that would be...
It would be
cost prohibitive.
catastrophic at this point.
But then, Peter shared some comments that, in his opinion, he didn't think it was an unfunded mandate and that the buildings need to be cleaned. It's something we have been doing and would always be doing regardless of the state requirement. Does this program cost us a little more? It's hard to tell. You're not maybe looking at apples to apples, but maybe it's cheaper, maybe it's not. But he made another point that if you look at the bigger picture, and this gentleman from the state could maybe verify what I'm saying or what my belief is, that you're looking for employment opportunities for certain people in the community, and this is one of them. And there would be, these are opportunities they may not have in other segments of the society and so forth. And without these opportunities, then maybe there's some additional cost burdens to the citizens for, other issues or costs. Anyway, the bottom line is I think it's probably a pretty decent program, and I think this is the route to go. I'm kind of glad you didn't vote on it, or I didn't get to vote, because it did give me the opportunity to talk to Peter and get a little more information, a little better understanding of how the program works and so forth. So I'm in support of it.
And I know Darvin would be glad to come up and answer questions if you'd like him to.
Did you want him to come up and answer any questions? If you had any more? Yeah. I hope we didn't have you come out. Did you have to come out of town or drive out of town, or?
Oh, I just came from Salem.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, thank you.
If you have something you'd like to inform us
Yeah, thank you
on?
for coming, so, yeah. Okay, council, what would you like to do with this contract?
Move to approve the proposal.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Drive safely. Okay, next is award of bid, and this one is for the traffic signal at 610 Ellsworth, and it's on page 43. 40 to 43. Questions? Yeah, Dick?
Yeah, I do. And one of my nephews got married up in Washington Square, And my son Jerry offered to drive. He lives in McMinnville. And so in driving up there and riding with him from there on, I was pleased to see that a bunch of those little burgs along Highway 99W are putting in streetlights, very similar, or maybe the same model as we're putting up here in Albany. And I was surprised and pleased to see, particularly in McMinnville, that not only their streetlights, but their traffic lights are supported by posts that are the same decorative kind of design. Now, one of my disappointments with our new stuff downtown is we've got these nice streetlights, and here are these great clunky traffic light posts holding up the traffic lights. And apparently, it's the ability is there to acquire matching, similar kinds of hardware to hold up the traffic light. And I'm wondering if there is time, or if it's too late, or if there's a possibility of perhaps modifying our proposal to put up the streetlight to have posts and support pieces that match and fit in with our new streetlights. So I asked Stacy if she could research that a little bit, and can you comment on it for us, Stacy?
I got next.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. Councilor Coburn, if you go first, I might not have to talk. But anyway, Councilor Olson, after I talked with you yesterday, I was able to do some research. I wasn't able to determine if there's an added cost associated with just the material themselves. ODOT does allow decorative traffic signals. However, they do not have standard drawings or specifications. And so that's something that the consultant would have to develop specifically for this project.
And would it interfere with the project if we put off the installation of those? And we do have the lights that have served for decades and apparently have worked okay, but ODOT doesn't like them. But could we leave those and still do the rest of the project and then put the stoplight in later when we have found out whether we can or cannot have matching or at least sympathetic supports for the traffic light?
We would have to consult with ODOT. ODOT was going to require an interim improvement. We were going to have to put in a flashing emergency signal instead of the fire signal, because they knew the traffic signal construction was coming fairly soon. They didn't make us construct that interim improvement. So we would have to check with ODOT to see if there would be any sort of repercussions. I do know that we would have to do an amendment to the agreement with ODOT for the new traffic signal.
Okay, so if we were going to do an amendment, we would want to forego this action tonight on this particular project, wouldn't we?
It would be council's decision.
Well, that's what I would like to suggest.
There would be an impact to the schedule. We'd have to do the plans, submit a new design to ODOT for their review and approval. We'd have to have an amendment with our consultant to do a new design, so we would be months out with construction of the traffic signal.
So the consultant is recommending the modern galvanized steel posts. Now, who is that consultant?
David Evans and Associates, and the traffic signal, it's consistent with there's first, second, third, ninth, there's 4 other signals on Ellsworth Street. So it's a standard signal pole and mast arm that's in ODOT's standards and specifications.
So are those other posts and signals, are they going to be modified with new
No.
super duper heavy duty posts?
No.
No, we're not planning on doing that. No. But we might consider putting something in that's more compatible with our downtown, maybe. No, or the urban renewal agency would have to consider that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it would be a council decision.
Okay. Well, I know this is last minute, but I was unaware that it was possible to have something compatible with our efforts.
Rich, then Bill.
I want to just get this done,
You will.
so I would move to award the contract.
I'll second that.
Okay, Bill, you had a question?
Oh, I could go on all night. If you ever watch Star Trek and the episode or the encounter of the Borg, and they're about to be assimilated, the line is, all resistance is futile, and that's kind of where we're at. The problem is ODOT, and the problem is one individual, his name's Scott Jallo. I'd be happy to give you his phone number. I've been critical of him in public, I've been critical of him to his face. I even sat down with the director of ODOT and had an audience with him about what they're doing. And there are multiple counties and cities that don't agree with ODOT and have refused to adopt those standards. And there are options if it's not a state highway. A good example is 34th and Marion and 34th and Hill, where we put in signals. Those are not to the current ODOT standards. And the complaint I had with ODOT was that this stemmed from putting up traffic signals and then coming in with these big green directional signs and bolting those either to the pole or up on the mast arm, and they weren't, in some cases, designed for that heavy a wind loading. The wind is the problem. It's never the weight, but it's always the wind. And so they redesigned these poles, so they absolutely went off the deep end, and you'll see an example of it when this signal is built. You'll go by and it's like, isn't this overkill? It absolutely is. And, you know, some of the comments I made to ODOT was that you haven't taken into account things like wind loading. If you're on the southern Oregon coast, that's a little different story than in the Willamette Valley. You haven't taken into account, you know, buildings. You don't get high winds roaring through downtown, you know, where you have buildings and so forth. There were different approaches, and the whole thing comes down to one individual and what he's going to do. And like I said, resistance is futile. I think it's exit 282, Wilsonville, the first Wilsonville exit. If you get off the freeway, go west, you look at some of those poles. They're very nice. They're decorative. They're kind of a powder-coated blue color, and they do blend in with what they're doing. I don't think these poles are going to be powder-coated, are they? They're just going to be silver. I mean, we could have powder-coated them black, and they might look a little better. They make some decorative collars you can put on the bottom, but it's still a huge pole, a huge arm. Where the arm connects to the pole is just this big, ungodly 6 or 8 bolt connection. It just, yeah, they're not attractive. But my advice is to vote yes, because resistance is futile.
How old is this guy?
He's younger than me.
Oh, geez.
How much more do you think powder coating on black would cost? Because it wouldn't stick out as much if they were.
Off the top of my head, I mean, a couple thousand maybe? I don't know. I mean, that's something the contractor could have done at the factory, and they've done it before. They're familiar with it, so.
Yeah, I've heard of it being done. I know that they can be, the powder coatings can come off, and then there's maintenance issues associated with it that ODOT staff's complained about, but it's something that we can talk about.
Portland has painted theirs for years. It was cheaper than powder coating and maybe a little easier to maintain. Powder coating can chip off. Again, those ones in Wilsonville have probably been there 10 years, and they still look pretty good, but.
Where are you going to anodize it?
What's that?
You can anodize it, but there's nobody around with an anodizing tank that.
Well, I don't know, you anodize steel, do you?
You can anodize steel, you can anodize aluminum,
I was thinking it was just
titanium, zirconium.
Anyway, you've now learned more about poles than you care to know.
Well, but I mean, it's a valid point. I never really thought about it, you know, how it's, what they're gonna end up looking like. If they wore a plaque, that probably would at least blend in a little bit better, so it might be worth just to, if you award the contract tonight, and that can always be a change order, come back and find out how much it's gonna cost. If it's absorbent, then I could see it not going, but if it is a few $1,000s or something, it might be something to consider, but, yeah.
And it's a gigantic, ugly black thing.
I would tend to agree a little bit with Rich. I guess the difference is it's in and amongst some nice powder-coated luminaire poles, so it does kind of blend in. I mean, Portland, trying to get this right, they used to paint the poles brown and the signal heads were green, thinking it might look like a tree. I mean, it just, so maybe we paint leaves on
tree.
it.
Yeah.
Well, get the art commission.
Yeah, they might paint something artistic on it.
Give them 5 years and $200,000.
Call for the question.
Yep, so, all right, I think there is a motion and a second. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, and that's 1 no on that. Okay, thank you, Stacy. Okay, business from the council, Bessie? Anything?
No, not tonight.
Okay, Bill? Dick? Rich?
I do. I got to write a letter to the judge in Lebanon. Seems one of my employees was driving one of my vehicles and had a lead foot and got a ticket. So I then remembered that he had told me that the speedometer was not working correctly. And that was on me. I wasn't the one speeding, but I was the one that was a piece of it. So I wrote a letter to the judge pointing out, well, I'm the guy who could have done something about it, but I didn't. I was reminded a few months ago, I'm driving on Highway 34, and a Lynn Benton Loop bus passes me. Doing 60-something, I'm doing 55 or something, and I got to my destination, and I called or emailed Chris, and she dealt with it. What comes up for me is, if we're part of the organization that is telling other people that they need to act a certain way, damn it, we need to act a certain way. Last week, I was at House of Noodle. You pull in, and here is this place that's no parking. And there's a rig parked in it, and I pulled in and started walking back, and it is a city car. And I'm headed for the door, and lo and behold, here is this face that I know who's coming out, smiling, "Hi, how you doing?" I said, "Are you the person who's parking in the no parking spot?" "Well, yes, do we need to have a chat?" "Well, we did." "Okay." If you make the rules, you need to follow the rules. A few months ago, an Albany woman was walking in a park setting and was accosted by a bunch of dogs. Now, they weren't biting her, but it was a leash area only. And she objected. There may have been some snarky words said, but it was enough that she called the police. Police stopped in. "Hey, get your dogs back on leash." They got them back on leash. Officer gets back in the rig and goes to take off, and maybe did take off a ways. And there's this person running up there with a business card. City of Albany business card. "Don't you know who I am?" Well, intimidation is kind of what I heard. A group of people were there. Some of them called the police officer some names. That's just not right. I mean, on what planet is that okay? Especially if it's us. If I'm I'm making the rules, I need to follow the rules. And I'd like to know what other counselors think of that.
That's always been my thought, you know, I mean, you obey the laws, obey the rules just like everybody else. We're not special.
Well, it's not leadership.
You know, I'm thinking about the speeding of your employee. Before I retired, we fought the same things, you know, and I was the one getting the phone calls, and so-and-so was tailgating, so-and-so was driving reckless, you know, and you apologize and you chew out the employee and so forth, but, you know, we used to tell these guys, you're driving a billboard. I mean, the name of the company and the phone number is on the side of your rig. Is it any wonder they called? You know, so, yeah, when you're representing a company or representing an organization or representing the city, yeah, you're a walking, talking billboard and you gotta follow rules.
All right?
Dick?
Is that it?
Nothing to say?
No, I don't.
You know who that was?
I do.
You?
It was my neighbor, yeah.
Your business card?
I did.
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
There's always two sides of every story. So-
Well, there's a police report on it. Public. Anybody wants to know, can find out.
Anything else, Rich?
Nothing.
Okay, Ray? Okay, all right, Mike?
No.
Okay, and I didn't have anything this evening. Jorge?
Just had a quick thing on the HRC. August 7th is National Night Out, and the HRC have submitted the Sunrise Park, which is a new park that is being redeveloped or updated, and they have selected that and registered that as a park that they're going to be attending. And we just wanted to invite the council, since it'll be, the park will be remodeled, and specifically council members from that ward, I believe, is Ward 2, where this park is, and the mayor to attend if they can. So they just wanted to extend that invitation that they...
Can I weigh in? Sorry.
I know, I'm sitting there thinking we have another email going on.
Jorge, you're right, but I'm just putting a note of caution.
There might, yeah.
We want to make sure we can actually open it with equipment, so we're working real hard to meet that deadline, but if we can't, we'll certainly give you a heads up.
Okay,
I just had that.
Yeah, give us a heads up.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to invite them.
It is not 100% guaranteed.
No, correct. And that was my next, I had a couple bullets, I was going to... I didn't even see you there. So that's the caveat.
That's why I whistled.
Yeah. So basically, the park is not ready and the park is reserved, but if the park is ready, we're going to make sure. We just wanted to invite the council to be part of it if it's ready. But it's registered under National Night Out.
Okay, great, all right. Anything else? Okay, all right. Staff have anything else? So, okay. So our next meeting, we do have Kara next week, and then Monday, July 23rd, work session, and then 25th will be the regular session. So with that, folks, we're adjourned. Thank you.